I was just standing there, baked under the blinding Colorado sun, squinting hard at the spot where our car had been not 10 minutes earlier. It was gone completely. Tessa, my wife, along with her girls, Maya, Brianna, and Nina, had disappeared. At first, I figured they were just pulling one of their dumb jokes. They were always up to something, seeing how far they could push me, trying to find the line I wouldn't let them cross. After 5 years of being married to Tessa, I'd learned to live with their nonsense. The teasing, the looks, the way they'd all laugh at my expense while Tessa just laughed along instead of saying a word in my defense. But this time, it didn't feel like a prank. It felt off. My phone was still in the charger inside the car. My wallet, too, left in the glove compartment like an idiot. All I had on me was a worn-out t-shirt, a pair of jeans, and this awful feeling that kept growing in the pit of my S-Francac. We'd been on this road trip to Brianna's lake house for 3 days now, and truth be told, I'd hated every second of it. Tessa had talked me into coming, said it'd be a chance to bond with her circle. I wasn't thrilled about the idea, never really clicked with her friends. They always made me feel like an outsider, dropping snarky comments and inside jokes I didn't get. But I went anyway, because I loved her, or at least I used to think I did. The gas station was out in the middle of nowhere, just a beat-up stop along a dry stretch of highway. One pump, fading sign. I'd only gone inside to use the restroom, thinking they'd wait for me. They always waited. Until now. 1 hour went by. I paced back and forth across the cracked pavement, kicking pebbles, telling myself they were just messing around. Any second now, I'd hear the tires on gravel, see the car swing back around, and Tessa would lean out the window laughing, "Gotcha!" But the road stayed silent. After 2 hours, the heat was unbearable. Sweat dripping down my back, throat dry as sandpaper. I kept replaying everything from the last few days. Brianna's smug little smirk when she accidentally spilled coffee on me. The way Nina leaned in and whispered something to Tessa that made her burst into laughter while looking straight at me. And Maya? She just watched, grinning like she knew something I didn't. I should have picked up on it. They'd been setting this up for days, and I was too blind to see it. Then I heard a truck pull in, big rig, engine rumbling like thunder. Snapped me out of my thoughts. The driver leaned out, older guy with a bushy gray beard and a ball cap stained with who knows what. "You all right, man? You've been out here a while." His voice was rough around the edges, but there was some kindness in it. It hit me hard. No, I wasn't all right. Not even close. They weren't coming back. Tessa wasn't coming back. I swallowed the lump in my throat and tried to sound calm. "Yeah, my ride ditched me." He nodded like he'd seen this kind of thing before. "Hop in. Where you headed?" I didn't even have an answer. Home, I guess. Back to Tessa. Back to the life we built, or thought we did. But as I climbed into the cab, something inside me started to shift. All those years of being the punchline, the doormat, the guy they joked about while Tessa watched and said nothing, it came crashing in all at once. I looked out the window as the gas station got smaller in the mirror. The driver didn't say much, just hummed along to some old country tune, and I sat there with fists clenched in my lap. I could have asked to borrow his phone, could have called her, demanded to know what the hell this was. But what would she say? "Relax, babe, it was just a joke. You're being too sensitive." Same thing every time. I'd bring up how her friends treated me, and she'd roll her eyes and say I didn't get their sense of humor. Maybe I didn't. But you know what? They never tried to understand me either. And Tessa? She always picked them. Every damn time. The trucker dropped me off at some dusty little crossroad. Said the nearest town, Grand Junction, wasn't far off. Tipped his cap. "Good luck, man." I nodded, couldn't even get a word out. My throat was tight. Then I started walking. The sun was cooking the ground, and my shoes kicked up clouds of dust. No phone, no money, no clue what I was doing. Just me, and the road ahead. Some part of me wanted to go back. Ask someone at the gas station to call her. Try to patch things up. But another part, the louder part, told me to keep going. I was tired of being the guy they laughed at. Tessa and her crew thought they'd humiliated me, thought they'd won. But as I headed down that empty road toward Grand Junction, a strange calm came over me. They didn't win. They just gave me a way out. I had no idea what was waiting for me in that town. Didn't know where I'd sleep, how I'd eat, or what Frankero would even look like. But for the first time in a long time, I wasn't scared of what Tessa might say. I wasn't worried about being the butt of another inside joke. I was alone, yeah, but not powerless. The highway stretched out ahead of me, endless and wide open. And I kept walking. They'd left me behind, sure. But maybe that was the best gift they could have given me. Maybe now I had a shot at figuring out who I was without Tessa, without any of them. By the time the sky turned orange and the sun started sinking behind the mountains, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going back. Not to her. Not to that life. Whatever came next, it was mine to create. I stood there at the crossroad where the trucker dropped me off. The wind kicked up little swirls of dust around my sneakers. Grand Junction lay ahead somewhere. I didn't have a phone, a dollar, or even a plan. Just the clothes on my back and a mind full of noise. Part of me still craved hearing her voice, even if it was just to yell at her. To make her explain herself. But then I remembered the lake house. Remembered the way she laughed when Brianna knocked my beer over. The way she just shrugged when I asked her to back me up. 5 years of feeling like a stranger in my own marriage. No, I wasn't calling her. Not this time. I took a deep breath and started walking toward town. Gravel crunched under my sneakers and sweat soaked through my shirt. Grand Junction might have been miles away, I didn't care. Every single step felt like a choice. Like I was leaving her behind, one footprint at a time. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I kept seeing that gas station, that moment I stepped out of that nasty restroom and realized I was completely alone. They had this all planned, didn't they? Tessa and the girls, Brianna, Maya, Nina, probably laughing their heads off as they sped away, thinking it'd be hilarious to leave me behind like that. I could practically hear Tessa in my head, saying something like, "He'll figure it out. He always does." Well, I was figuring it out all right, just not the way she thought I would. A pickup rolled past, engine growling, and I stuck out my thumb, hoping for a little mercy from the road. The guy behind the wheel had a patchy beard and a flannel shirt that had seen better days. He slowed down, leaned out the window, and gave me a once-over. "Need a lift?" "Yeah, heading toward Grand Junction," I told him, trying to keep my voice even, like I hadn't just been ditched in the middle of nowhere. He gave me a nod. "Hop in. I'm heading that way." I climbed in, more grateful than I could show. The truck smelled like motor oil and old cigarettes, but it was a hell of a lot better than walking. "So, what's your story?" he asked once we got moving, the highway rolling out in front of us. I hesitated for a second, then gave a tired shrug. Got left behind by some people I thought had my back. He let out a low grunt, not surprised. "Happens more than you'd think around here." He dropped me off on the edge of Grand Junction, right near a blinking light and a row of low buildings. "Take care, man," he said, and just like that, he was gone. I stood there for a minute, trying to get a read on the town. Old brick storefronts mixed with strip malls and chain stores. Folks walking around like it was just another normal day. But for me, everything had changed. I had no wallet, no ID, no way to prove who I even was. I needed help fast. A few blocks down, I spotted a weathered building with a wooden cross painted on the side and a sign for a homeless shelter. My gut twisted. I never thought I'd end up in a place like that. But honestly, what were my options? Inside, the place smelled like bleach and burnt coffee. Behind the counter sat a guy with a shaved head and a look that said he didn't take crap from anyone. His name tag read Glenn. "You lost, or just broke?" he asked, giving me a quick once-over. "Little of both," I said, rubbing the back of my neck. "Got ditched out on the highway. No cash. No phone. Nothing." He didn't even flinch. "Happens." Then he asked, "You got a name?" "Yeah. Eli," I said. Figured there was no reason to lie about that. He slid a clipboard across the counter. "Fill this out. We'll get you a bed tonight. Frankero will figure out the rest." That night, I lay on a thin cot surrounded by the sound of snoring and coughing. Stared up at the ceiling, eyes wide open. My mind was spinning. Tessa's face wouldn't leave me alone. Her voice, that laugh of hers. Part of me wanted to hate her. But a small piece of me still hoped she'd show up, say it was a mistake, say she was sorry. But Glenn's voice kept echoing in my head, "Frankero will figure out the rest." He wasn't just talking, he meant it. Next morning, he handed me a cup of coffee so weak you could see through it and sat me down. "First thing you need is ID," he said. "Can't do anything without it. Job, bank, anything. It's gonna take a bit, but we'll get it started." I nodded, feeling like a complete failure. "Know anyone who's hiring?" Glenn smirked. "There's a diner a couple blocks down. Lady who runs it's a tough old broad named Dolores. Tell her I sent you." The diner was a little box of a place called D's red vinyl booths, cracked linoleum, and a dusty jukebox that probably hadn't worked since the 80s. Dolores was behind the counter, wiping it down like it had personally offended her. She looked like she'd seen some things wiry in her 60s, tattoos climbing up her arms, voice like sandpaper. "Glenn says you need work?" she asked without looking up. "Yeah," I said, shifting my weight. "I'll take anything." She gave me a hard look like she was trying to read me in one glance. "Dishwasher quit yesterday. Pays lousy. Hours suck. You steal from me, I'll break your hands. Start now." I blinked, caught off guard. But I nodded. "Okay. I'm in." She tossed me an apron, and just like that, I was in the back, elbow deep in hot, greasy water, scrubbing plates like my life depended on it. Because in a way it did. No Tessa. No snide comments. No one laughing at me. Just me, a wall of dirty dishes, and the sound of a kitchen running at full speed. Glenn checked in later that week, helped me file paperwork for a replacement ID. "You're doing all right, Eli," he said, giving me a solid pat on the shoulder. I wasn't sure if I believed him, but I kept showing up. The shelter became a kind of home. The diner was my anchor. I didn't call Tessa. Didn't even try. Every night, I dropped onto that cot exhausted. But it was the kind of tired that came from actually doing something, not from carrying around all that hurt. I was rebuilding from nothing, and weirdly, it felt good. Morning after morning, I'd wake up to the same ache in my back and the sound of snoring guys all around me. A few weeks had passed since that day at the gas station, and I was still trying to get used to this new version of life. The one without her. Scrubbing dishes, sleeping in a shared room, wearing donated clothes, it wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. My hands were red and rough from hot water and soap, but it kept me moving. Kept me from thinking about Tessa. Glenn was solid. Helped me navigate the red tape for the ID. "It'll take time," he said, handing me a small stack of forms. "But you'll get there." I nodded, quietly thankful for the guy. His gruff way of caring was exactly what I needed. The diner became my world. Dolores didn't tolerate slackers. She ran the place like a general. "Move your ass, Eli. We ain't got all day," she'd bark. But I could tell she didn't mean it in a bad way. She just expected you to keep up. I started pulling double shifts, saving every penny I could. I hid my earnings in an envelope tucked beneath my cot. My first paycheck wasn't much, but it was enough to buy a cheap prepaid phone from the gas station nearby. When I held that little plastic thing in my hands, I felt proud. It was small, but it was something I earned myself. Not handed to me. Not Tessa's. I didn't need her anymore. That's when the call came. I'd only had the phone a day when it buzzed in my pocket. I was knee-deep in soap suds when I pulled it out and saw her number on the screen. "Tessa." My S-Francac dropped like a stone. I stared at it frozen, watching the screen until it stopped ringing. I didn't answer. A minute later, voicemail. I shouldn't have listened to it. But of course I did. Her voice came through, low and shaky like she'd rehearsed every word. "Eli, where are you? We waited for you. It was just a joke. We're so worried. Please call me back." I just stood there, frozen at the sink while the water kept running, steam curling into the air like nothing had changed. But everything had. "Worried?" She said they were worried? They left me stranded out in the middle of nowhere, no phone, no wallet, no clue. If they'd actually waited, they'd have come back long before now. Then the phone buzzed again, this time it was Brianna. Her voicemail had a whole different energy, smug and breezy. "Come on, dude. You've got to admit that was hilarious. Call us back, all right?" Hilarious. I stared at the phone, gripping it so tightly my knuckles went pale. That's all I was to them. A damn joke. Something to laugh about over drinks back at the lake house. A story they'd tell later with wine in hand and fake sympathy in their voices. The messages kept coming. One after another. Tessa. Then Nina. Then back to Brianna. Each one more ridiculous than the last. "We miss you. Where are you? This isn't funny anymore." I scrolled through them, my chest tightening like a vice. Tessa's words echoed, that phony worry in her voice. Those fake tears? She didn't care. None of them did. Later that night, I sat on my cot in the dim quiet of the shelter. The heater rattled in the corner, and someone let out a wheezing snore from across the room. My phone glowed in my hand, those same messages lighting up the screen like they were begging for attention. I listened to the first one again. Tessa's voice. Then Brianna's, still laughing. Then one from Nina, just her giggling before it cut out. My thumb hovered over the call button. Part of me wanted to scream at Tessa. Ask her how she could do this. Ask what the hell she was thinking. But I knew how that would go. She'd laugh it off, or worse, start crying and twist it all around until I was the one apologizing. That had been our pattern. I'd take the hits, smile through the humiliation, because I thought that's what love meant. What being a good husband looked like. But not anymore. I scrolled through my contacts, Tessa, Brianna, Maya, Nina, and started blocking them one by one. My hands were shaking, but I didn't stop. Once it was done, the phone went completely still. No more buzzing. No more games. No more pretending. I leaned back against the wall, exhaled slowly. It felt like cutting the last strand of a rope that had been choking me for years. They couldn't reach me now. They didn't get to write the ending to this story. That was up to me. The next morning, I showed up at the diner like I always did, slipping my hands into the scalding dishwater, letting the heat erase their voices from my mind. Dolores took one look at me and raised an eyebrow. "You're quiet today," she said, tossing a rag at me. "Trouble?" I shrugged. "Just sorting through some things." She snorted. "Fine by me. Long as it doesn't mess with my kitchen. Sort all you want." I actually smiled at that. She didn't care about my personal drama, just whether I got the job done. It was freeing. Glenn stopped by later that afternoon. He handed me a folded paper with a case number on it. "Your ID application's moving along," he said. "You handing in there?" I nodded. "Yeah, better than I thought I would." He gave my shoulder a quick pat and headed out. That weekend, I dug through the shelter's donation pile and found a second-hand jacket. It was too big and smelled a little musty, but it kept the wind out, and for $5 it was mine. Each night, I walked back to the shelter with my prepaid phone tucked in my pocket. Quiet now, finally quiet, and I felt lighter. Tessa and her friends were gone from my life, trimmed away like dead branches. I didn't need them. I didn't need their excuses, their fake apologies. I had a job, a bed, plan. Not much, but it was mine. The sting was still there, sure, but it was duller now, something in the background instead of front and center. And for the first time in a long time, I could fall asleep without dreaming about her. Months passed. The diner had become more than just work. It was stability. Dolores noticed how hard I'd been working and bumped me up to prep cook. That meant a little more pay and a lot more chopping. I didn't mind. I liked the rhythm of it. Slicing onions, peeling potatoes, hands moving fast while my brain got a break. I'd finally saved enough to rent a tiny studio above a laundromat. It wasn't much. A creaky bed, a hot plate, and a bathroom that barely fit me. But it was mine. No more cots. No more strangers snoring beside me. Just a lock on the door and a place to call home. Nights were still the hardest. I'd lie on that old mattress, staring up at the water stains on the ceiling, and Tessa would sneak into my thoughts again. I'd remember her smile. Not the sharp one she saved for her friends, but the soft one she used to give me, back when we were still good. I'd wonder if she missed me, if she ever thought about what she did. Loneliness hit different in the quiet. It didn't yell. It just settled in your chest like a weight. But morning always came, and I'd get up, throw on that jacket, and head back to the diner. No one judging me, no one mocking me, just peace. One night after a long shift, I was messing around with the phone, bored, a little restless. I didn't have anyone to talk to, no contacts saved, but curiosity got the better of me. I made a fake social media account, blank name, no photo, and searched her up. Tessa's profile was still public, still curated to perfection. Photos from that same trip, her and Brianna by the lake, Maya with a drink in her hand, big smiles all around like nothing ever happened. And then I saw it. Post about me. It was an old photo, the two of us at some picnic years ago. We were smiling, back when I still believed she had my back. The caption stopped me cold. "Missing my love. I pray he finds his way back to me." My thumb froze on the screen. Missing me? She hadn't even come back. She just left me there. Drove away and never looked back. And now she was playing the victim? I almost laughed. The sound echoed in that bare little apartment like something breaking loose inside me. It was so fake. So perfectly Tessa spinning the story to make herself look heartbroken and sweet, like I just wandered off without a word. I scrolled through the comments. "Brianna, he'll turn up, don't worry." Nina, sending you hugs, babe. It made me sick. They were all in on it. Still playing pretend, still trying to control the narrative, still painting me as the one who ran. I clicked off the phone, tossed it onto the mattress, and sat there with my head in my hands. She hadn't changed. Not even a little. None of them had changed, not really. But I had. I wasn't the guy in that picnic photo anymore, grinning through gritted teeth while they chipped away at me one joke at a time. That guy was gone. I'd become someone new. Someone they wouldn't recognize. The next day at the diner, I was quieter than usual, still stewing on what I'd seen online. Of course, Dolores noticed. She always noticed. You look like somebody ran over your dog, she said, sliding a plate of fries toward me during a lull in the rush. I gave a half shrug and poked at the fries. Just got too much rattling around upstairs. She crossed her tattooed arms, raised one brow like she could see straight through me. That ex of yours again? I froze for a second. I hadn't told her the whole story, just bits and pieces in passing. But somehow she knew. Yeah, I said finally. Saw something online. She's out there pretending like she's the one who got hurt. Dolores snorted, sharp and dry. Sounds like a real winner. Good riddance, kid. I managed a small smile. She was right. Good riddance. I kept my head down and stayed busy. Chopping veggies, flipping burgers when the line got backed up, wiping down every surface in sight, anything that kept my hands moving and my mind off old ghosts. The regulars at the diner had started to recognize me, nodding as they came in or dropping an extra buck or two on the table. It felt good, like I belonged somewhere. I'd catch my reflection in the front glass sometimes, messy hair, tired eyes, stubble coming in uneven, but I didn't look lost anymore. I looked like a guy rebuilding, one shift at a time. Tessa's post stopped haunting me. Her voice faded behind the clatter of plates and Dolores barking orders like a drill sergeant. I stopped checking her socials. Whatever narrative she was pushing didn't matter. I had work. I had a bed. I had a quiet little life that was slowly becoming mine. Sure, the loneliness still crept in sometimes, especially late at night when the hum of the laundromat downstairs leaked through the floor. But it didn't sting like it used to. I'd wake up to the faint scent of detergent, throw on my boots, and head out into the crisp morning air. Nobody waiting to tear me down. Nobody judging how I buttered my toast or tied my shoes. I could just be Eli. Plain, steady, figuring it out Eli. And that was enough. Freedom wasn't loud or dramatic. It was subtle, the weight of a house key in my pocket, the feel of a paycheck in my hand. Small things, but they were mine. And I wasn't giving them up. I'd been living above that laundromat for a while now, falling into a rhythm that felt like real life. Work, save, sleep, rinse and repeat. The days blurred together, but they were honest. And then she walked in. Leah. She started coming by the diner a couple times a week, always taking the same booth near the window, always surrounded by a sea of textbooks and scribbled notes. She looked like a med student, constantly muttering medical stuff to herself while taking furious notes. Her order never changed: Denver omelet, hold the Francados, extra coffee. Barely glanced up when I dropped it off. I'd catch myself watching her sometimes, amused by how she'd zone out mid-bite, fork dangling in the air while her mind wandered off to some Anna Franke term. I don't even know why I started messing with her. Boredom, maybe? Curiosity, probably. I just wanted to see her smile. So I started swapping out my name tag. One day it said Bob. Next time Steve. After that Carl. Just dumb names I made up to mess with her. She didn't notice at first, too buried in her textbooks. But then came the morning I strolled over with Rusty pinned to my shirt. She looked up for once, eyebrows scrunching as her eyes scanned my tag. Then she looked me dead in the face. Your name tag's wrong, she said, calm and matter-of-fact, like she was diagnosing a patient. I grinned. Is it? She gave the faintest smirk and went back to her notes. But that moment stuck with me. It was small, but real. From then on, Leah became the bright spot in my week. I'd find excuses to swing by her table, offer a refill, clear her plate, check if she needed anything. She usually just nodded or gave a quiet thanks, but I kept remembering that smirk like she knew exactly what game I was playing. Then one day, she walked in looking like she'd barely slept. Hair a mess, bags under her eyes, dragging her books like they weighed 100 pounds. Rough night? I asked, setting down her coffee. She sighed and rubbed her eyes. Exams. Haven't slept in 2 days? I didn't push. Just slipped an extra hash brown onto her plate while she wasn't looking. When she spotted it, she raised an eyebrow. You're sneaky. I shrugged. Gotta keep you awake somehow. Our first date wasn't really planned. She came in one evening, dressed nicer than usual, jeans, cute top, and mentioned her friends bailed on dinner reservations at some upscale pizza place across town. I'm not wasting it, she muttered almost to herself. Then she looked at me. You free? I was behind the counter wiping it down, almost done with my shift. Dolores was within earshot. Go on, kid, she barked. You're no use to me standing around moping. So I went. We split a pepperoni pizza and a pitcher of soda. She laughed a real, full laugh when I told her about the name tag trick. I knew you weren't rusty, she said, grinning. You're not that old. We talked for hours. About med school. About the diner. About dumb stuff like favorite snacks and TV shows. It was easy. Comfortable. Like we'd known each other longer than a few weeks. 6 months later, she moved into my little studio. We made it work even though her books took up most of the floor space and cooking on a hot plate meant dancing around each other. She'd study late into the night and I'd fall asleep to the soft sound of her whispering medical terms in her sleep. Weirdly peaceful. A year after that, we upgraded to a real apartment, one with a kitchen that actually had an oven and a couch that didn't smell like bleach. Leah wasn't like Tessa. She didn't cut me down. Didn't make jokes at my expense. When I doubted myself, and I still did sometimes, she'd look me straight in the eye and say, "You've got this." And somehow, I believed her. We had our little routines, cooking together, fighting over who left the lights on, watching trash TV, and arguing about which show was worse. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. And then, Tessa tried to come back. She started emailing me. No idea how she got the address, probably dug it out of an old bill or something. The first message came a few weeks after Leah moved in. I was at the diner, mid-shift, chopping peppers when my phone buzzed. Eli, I just want to know you're okay. I miss you. We all do. I stood there, knife hovering in the air, staring at the screen like it was a ghost. Miss me? After leaving me high and dry at a gas station with nothing? After laughing about it with her little crew? Now she missed me? I deleted it without a second thought. But they kept coming. Some short, others long and dripping with her signature sweetness, that kind of carefully worded guilt that made it sound like she was the victim. I messed up, I know. Please talk to me. I saw your grandma. She's worried. Each time, I'd read just enough to feel that old ache swell up in my chest. And then I'd swipe left. Delete. Over and over again. One night, Leah caught me staring at my phone, frowning at whatever message had just popped up. Who's that? She asked. I didn't hesitate. Nobody, I said, and she didn't press. She didn't need to. Because I wasn't going back. Life with Leah was better than anything I thought I deserved. The diner was steady, my hands no longer shook when I cooked, and Tessa's emails were just static background noise I'd learned to ignore. Leah would tease me about the way I diced onions. I'd joke about her off-key singing. We'd fall asleep curled up on that second-hand couch, warm and close and far from everything I used to be. Tessa could write as much as she wanted. She didn't get to crawl back into my life. Not now. Not ever. My world had shifted. My life was here, with Leah. And I wasn't letting it go. I was flipping a burger on the grill one afternoon, the sizzle filling the kitchen as grease popped and danced across my apron. The place was quiet, slow stretch between lunch and dinner rush. Dolores called me over from the counter, a serious look in her eyes. Eli, she said, wiping her hands on a rag. You're not half bad at this. I smirked, thinking she was gearing up for one of her usual sarcastic digs. But her face stayed flat. Dead serious. I'm opening a second spot. Smaller diner, other side of town. It's mine. And I need someone to run it. I stared at her. Me? Yeah, you, she said, not missing a beat. You've got the chops. You work hard, you don't steal, you don't whine. Say yes or no. My mind reeled. Me? A year ago, I was washing dishes and sleeping on a cot in a shelter. Now I was getting handed keys to a business? I almost said no, part of me still expecting it to be a setup like one of Tessa's cruel little gags. That night, I sat on the couch next to Leah, the TV flashing but nothing really landing. She dropped her bag, kicked off her shoes, and looked at me. What's going on? She asked, concern in her voice. I told her. About Dolores's offer. About the keys. About the fear clawing in my chest. She wants me to run it. Be the boss. Me. Leah dropped onto the couch beside me, knee bumping mine. And you're thinking about turning it down? She asked, reading me like an open book. I rubbed the back of my neck. I don't know. What if I screw it all up? She took my hand, firm but gentle. You've already been running that place. You're the one who keeps the kitchen moving when Dolores is yelling at someone else. You've got this. Make it official. She didn't even hesitate. Not for a second. And that hit me harder than I expected. Tessa would have laughed. Would have made some snide comment about me burning toast, then let her friends pile on. But Leah? She just believed in me. And that belief felt like the most solid ground I'd ever stood on. Okay, I said, voice quiet but sure. I'll do it. She smiled, that soft one that always got me, and leaned her head on my shoulder. Good. Now quit brooding. We've got dishes. I laughed, really laughed. The heaviness on my chest lifted a little and we washed those plates together, her humming some terrible song while I splashed soapy water at her like a 5-year-old. The next morning I told Dolores I was in. She gave a grunt like she'd already figured I would. Then handed me a jangly set of keys and said, "Don't burn it down," before heading back to her paperwork. The new place was tiny, a hole in the wall with 10 tables, a narrow counter, and a kitchen that could barely fit 2 people side by side. But it was mine to run. Mine. I started the next week. Setting schedules. Ordering food. Cooking when things backed up. It was chaos, burnt fries, servers forgetting orders, deliveries running late. But I kept going. I figured it out. Leah had been right. I'd already been doing this job. Now I had the title. Soon enough, the place found its rhythm. A couple of truckers started coming in regularly, locals chatted me up like I'd been there forever, and Dolores stopped by once, took a look around, and gave me a nod. "Not bad, kid," she said, and I felt like I'd grown an inch taller. And then, Tessa popped back up. I was checking inventory on my phone when another email from her slipped through. "Eli, your grandmother's been asking about you. Please let us know you're okay." My Francac turned. Grandma. The one person from that old life who actually gave a damn. She used to send cards, birthday notes, little things just to say she was thinking of me even after I married Tessa. But Tessa bringing her up now? That was low. A cheap shot. I pictured her at her laptop, typing that message with tears in her eyes that weren't real. Trying to guilt me back into that world with one well-placed mention of someone who mattered. I deleted it. Hard. She didn't get to use Grandma as bait. Not after what she'd done. If Grandma needed to hear from me, I'd reach out myself directly. Tessa didn't get to be the middleman. After that, I buried myself in work. Kept my hands moving and my mind anchored. The diner was getting busier. Word was spreading. Truckers passing through. Locals popping in before shifts or on their lunch breaks. And for the first time since everything fell apart, I didn't feel like I was just surviving. I was living. I'd come home to Leah hunched over our kitchen table, textbooks spread out like a paper explosion, highlighter in one hand, coffee in the other. "How was work?" she'd ask without looking up. "Good," I'd say. And I meant it. We'd cook something simple, pasta, maybe burgers if we were feeling fancy, and talk about her exams, my day at the diner, and dreams for what might come next. The life we were building was small but strong, real. Tessa's emails kept showing up, but I never opened them. They stacked up in my trash folder like junk mail from a past life. She was just a shadow now, faint, quiet, easy to ignore. My life was here, the hum of the diner, Leah's smile, the ring of keys in my pocket. I'd been thrown away once, tossed aside like I didn't matter. But I'd picked myself up, rebuilt piece by piece. And now? I had something better. Something that couldn't be touched by her or anyone else. Every night, I'd lock up the diner, drive home, and step into a house filled with warmth and laughter. I'd never felt more like a man who'd finally found his footing. Fast forward 15 years. I was flipping eggs on the flat top in the kitchen of my third diner, the one out on the edge of town, when my phone buzzed in my pocket. The place was packed, truckers calling for more coffee, waitresses weaving between booths like a ballet, the morning rush in full swing. I nearly ignored it. 15 years had changed me. Leah and I were married now. We had 2 wild kids tearing through the house like hurricanes. 3 diners. A life so full and loud and beautiful it barely resembled the hollow one I'd crawled out of after Tessa left me at that gas station. I wiped my hands on my apron and pulled out my phone. Just a quick glance. LinkedIn notification. Your profile was viewed 27 times today. My Francac dropped. I barely used LinkedIn. Just a bare-bones page with my name, the diners, and a photo Leah had snapped when I wasn't ready. 27 views? That wasn't a coincidence. I tapped it open, and there she was, Tessa. Her name stared back at me like it hadn't aged a day, tied to some job title I didn't care about. But there was no mistaking it. She'd been digging, clicking through my life, over and over. I set the phone down on the counter, my hands gripping the edge like it was the only thing keeping me upright. The grill hissed behind me, eggs sizzling, but my head was somewhere else entirely. 15 years. A whole lifetime of moving on. And there she was, creeping in again like a whisper I thought I'd forgotten. I finished plating the eggs, handed them off to a waitress, and tried to shake it. Coffee needed refilling. Hash browns were getting crispy. but her name clung to the back of my mind like a splinter. Had she seen the diners? The title? The blurry old job listing from Dolores's? Had she seen anything about Leah? The kids? I hadn't posted much. Just enough to not look like a ghost. But 27 views? She wasn't skimming. She was searching. I wiped my forehead, sweat mixing with the heat of the kitchen, and checked the profile again. Tessa. Hair cut short now. That same tight, curated smile. Consultant, the bio said. I didn't care enough to read the rest. I stepped into the tiny storeroom in the back, wedged between shelves of pancake mix and canned peaches, and leaned against the wall, heart pounding in my ears. I hated that she could still get to me. I'd spent years burying the sound of her laugh, the way she used to mock me with her friends, the way she drove off like I was disposable. And now she was back. Not in words, just eyes. Silent but loud as hell. I wanted to message her. What are you doing? What do you want? But I stopped myself. That's how it starts. That's the door she wants me to crack open. A reply. A thread to tug. So I shoved the phone in my pocket and went back to the grill. Threw myself into the lunch rush like my life depended on it. Cooking, wiping, refilling. The regulars chatted. Some guy asked for more ketchup. A kid dropped his toast. Just another day. But under all of it, her name kept whispering around in my head. That night at home, I didn't say a word to Leah. She was folding laundry on the couch. The kids upstairs screaming about who got the last cookie. Busy day? She asked, glancing up. Yeah, I said, forcing a smile, kissing her on the forehead. Same old. She didn't push, just handed me a pile of socks, and I sat down to fold. The house smelled like dinner, chicken and rice, and the sound of our kids laughing filled every corner. Felt normal, happy, whole. But Tessa lingered. I didn't open LinkedIn again. I didn't need to. 27 was enough. I knew what she was doing. I washed dishes beside Leah, her hip bumping mine every now and then, and I tried to shake it. This was my life now. My real life. The one I built from scratch. Tessa couldn't touch it. But that night, when the lights were off and the house was still, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, her name echoing in my mind. 2 days later, I was back at the original diner, the one where it all started. Pouring coffee, wiping counters, just another day in a long line of them. The bell over the door jingled, and they walked in. Tessa, Brianna, Maya. I froze. It had been 3 days since those LinkedIn views. Somewhere deep down, I'd been waiting for this, bracing for it. The breakfast crowd had thinned out. A few regulars lingered over cold pancakes and refills. The air was thick with grease, and I was halfway through wiping the counter when I saw them. Tessa's short hair caught the morning light. Brianna still had that same strut in her step. Maya looked smaller than I remembered, like she didn't want to be there. 15 years since they left me behind like a bad joke. And now they were here, in my diner, on my turf. My hands froze on the rag, heart suddenly pounding. I could have slipped into the back, let one of the waitresses handle them, pretend I hadn't seen a thing. But something inside me stood up. Maybe it was anger. Maybe it was closure. Maybe I just needed to face it head on. I grabbed a pot of coffee, more for something to do with my hands than anything else, and walked over to their booth. Tessa saw me first. Her eyes went wide, mouth falling open like the words had slipped out before she even thought about them. "Oh my God. It's you?" she said, voice shaking just enough to sound real, like she hadn't practiced it in the mirror 100 times. Brianna leaned back in the booth, that same old smirk curling on her lips. "Hey, look at you. Big shot now, huh?" Maya peeked up, gave me a quick glance, then dropped her eyes to the menu, fingers twitching like they didn't know what to do. I stood there, coffee pot in hand, staring at them. They looked older, tired in a way that didn't come from years, but from life chewing them up and spitting them out. There was something desperate behind the makeup, behind the half-smiles. "What do you want?" I asked, flat, short, my voice sharper than I felt. Tessa leaned forward, hands twisted together like she was wringing the truth out of her own fingers. "Eli, can we talk? Please." I didn't sit, didn't soften. "I'm working," I said. So talk. She swallowed. Her eyes flicked to Brianna, searching for backup. And then she started. Came out in pieces, her voice cracking, her words tumbling. Her little business fell apart. The marriage, too, some guy I didn't know and didn't care to. She was broke. Lost. She needed help. Then Brianna chimed in, casual like this was all normal. You're doing all right, right? 3 diners? We just need a little help. You know, for old times. Maya nodded softly, almost whispering. Just a little help. I let the words hang there. Listened. Watched. The 3 of them sat squirming in my booth, in my diner, under my roof. Tessa's voice wavered. Brianna's smirk slipped. Maya was picking at the menu like it was a lifeline. They'd planned this. Tracked me down. Thought I'd roll over like I used to. My hand tightened on the coffee pot. I didn't say a word. Just stood there and watched them unravel under the weight of their own nerve. Wait here, I said finally, and turned away. My boots were heavy on the tile as I walked to the back office. A narrow, cluttered room with receipts stacked like towers and a fan that never worked. I sat down, the old chair creaking under me, and stared at the wall. They wanted money, after what they'd done, after laughing, leaving, forgetting me. Now they thought I'd be their rescue plan. My hands shook not from fear, from fury. But I didn't yell, didn't kick them out. I grabbed an envelope from the drawer, wrote out a check, and walked back. They were still in the booth, whispering, nervous. Their heads snapped up the second I approached. I dropped the envelope in front of Tessa. She snatched it up like it was going to disappear, her face lighting up for half a heartbeat, then falling when she opened it. $85.50. The exact cost of a Greyhound bus ticket from Grand Junction 15 years ago. Her smile cracked. She blinked, trying to process it. Brianna yanked it from her hand. What the hell is this? She snapped. I leaned in, voice low and even. That's what it would have cost me to get back to you that day. But I didn't take the bus. I figured it out on my own. And that's all you get. Tessa's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Brianna shoved the envelope back at me, scowling. You're a real piece of work, Eli. After everything? She added, her voice rising. I shook my head. After everything? You left me, at a gas station, with nothing. That check is me being generous. Maya flinched at that. Her hands curled into fists, but she didn't speak. Just sat there, shrinking into herself. I straightened up and let my eyes settle on each of them. Tessa, pale and rattled. Brianna, angry and twitching. Maya, looking like she wanted to vanish. It's time to go, I said, loud enough for the room to hear. Don't come back. I turned without waiting for a reply. The waitress hovered by the counter, unsure, but I waved her off. They're done, I said, grabbing a rag, wiping my hands, like I was just cleaning up another mess. They sat there for a few seconds, stunned, the silence between them louder than any outburst. Then they scrambled up. Tessa shoved the envelope into her purse like it burned her. Brianna muttered something I didn't catch. Maya kept her eyes low as they left. The door jingled shut behind them, and the diner settled back into its rhythm. Forks clinking, conversations rising and falling, like they'd never been here. I poured myself a cup of coffee. My hands were steady now. They thought I'd fold. Thought I'd still be that guy they left behind. Instead, I gave them exactly what they gave me, just enough to leave. No more. No less. The place hummed around me. My place. And they were gone. I finished my shift, locked the doors, and drove home with each mile feeling a little lighter. They'd tried and they'd lost. That was the end of it. Or at least it should have been. I stood at the front window for a minute before leaving, arm resting against the cool glass. Watched them out in the parking lot, caught in their own storm. Brianna was pacing, waving her hands, face twisted like she was seconds from exploding. Tessa just stood there, hunched over, staring at the gravel like it held answers. The envelope was crumpled in her hand. Maya stood off to the side, arms crossed, looking like she wanted to disappear into the sunset. She glanced toward the diner, just for a second, her eyes meeting mine. Then she looked away. I didn't move. Didn't blink. Just watched. They were falling apart out there. And I felt nothing. The sun was low, spilling orange light over the lot, stretching their shadows long and thin. Brianna pointed at Tessa, jabbing the air like it was all her fault. Tessa didn't argue. She just shook her head and shoved the envelope into her purse like it was trash. I picked up my mug, took a sip. Cold. Bitter. I didn't care. Inside, the diner ticked along like it always had. A couple of old-timers chatted over pie. The jukebox played some song from the 70s. The waitresses cleared tables and stole glances toward the door. They knew something had gone down, but they didn't ask. "You good, Eli?" one of them asked while stacking plates. "Yeah," I said, quiet. "All good." I went back to wiping down the counter, slow and steady, letting the rag carry away what was left of the day. What was left of them? No explanations. No drama. It was done. Tessa and her crew were gone. And I was done. Driving home, the truck rumbled under me, the road stretching out ahead, dark except for the cone of headlights cutting through. My hands gripped the wheel a little too tight, my mind still stuck on that scene, Tessa's face crumbling when she saw the check, Brianna's usual bite turning bitter, Maya just shrinking into herself. I thought it'd feel better slamming that door shut, putting an end to it. And yeah, it did. Mostly. But there was still this itch. Not regret exactly, more like a ghost of a feeling. A flicker. They'd look different this time, not smug, not cruel. Just broken. Especially Tessa. That sob story of hers played in my head even though I'd tuned most of it out. 15 years ago, I would have chased after them. Would have wanted to fix it. Not anymore. This time, I watched them walk out. The house came into view, porch light glowing, Leah's car parked out front. I let out a breath I didn't even know I'd been holding. This, the life I'd built, the family waiting for me, this was real. Not them. Not anymore. I stepped inside, kicked my boots off by the door. The smell of leftover lasagna drifted in from the kitchen, warm and familiar. Leah was at the table, papers spread everywhere, red pen in hand. Probably grading, like always. The kids were upstairs, voices muffled, still awake but pretending not to be. She looked up, glasses slipping down her nose. "Hey," she said gently. Then tilted her head. "You okay?" I nodded, sat down across from her, hands flat on the table. They came by. Her eyes narrowed slightly but she waited. "Tessa. Brianna. Maya." I said the names like I was naming old ghosts. Asked for money. I gave them bus fare. Told them to leave. She set her pen down, leaned back in her chair, watching me with that calm she always had. "Bus fare?" she asked, eyebrow raised, a little smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. $73.50, I said. Exact price of a Greyhound out of Grand Junction back then. I told her the whole thing, Tessa's face falling apart, Brianna losing it, Maya saying almost nothing. And how I walked away. She didn't say much. Just reached across the table, her fingers brushing over mine. "They can't take anything from you unless you give it to them," she said. Her voice was steady, firm. And it hit me, simple but true. I looked at her. Really looked. And I nodded, throat tight. "Yeah," I said quietly. She gave my hand a squeeze, then picked her pen back up like nothing more needed to be said. And really, there wasn't. She got it. She got me. That night, we ate the lasagna, just the two of us. The kids had finally gone quiet upstairs. I sat there poking at my plate, still halfway back in the diner parking lot, Tessa's stare, Brianna's yelling, Maya's silence. But it didn't matter anymore. Not what they said. Not how they blamed each other. They'd come looking for something, and I gave them the truth instead. Leah didn't press. She talked about the kids, our son bombing his math test, our daughter drawing cats on every sheet of paper in the house. I smiled, nodded, let her words pull me back into the now. After dinner, we cleaned up. Her hip bumped mine at the sink, and I felt grounded again. Solid. Later, lying in bed, Leah breathing softly beside me, I stared at the ceiling. The house creaked. The kids shifted in their rooms. And I replayed the whole thing, the diner, the envelope, them unraveling in the lot. They couldn't touch this. My family. My business. Me. I'd shut the door and locked it for good. And they were outside, exactly where they belonged. That itch inside me was still there. Barely. But fading. Leah was right, they had nothing I hadn't given. And I'd given them an ending. I closed my eyes and slept deep. Done with their ghosts. Weeks passed. One evening, I stood in our kitchen, stirring a pot of chili. The smell of cumin and francatos filled the air. Outside, the kids were tearing around the yard like wild things. Leah sat at the table, red pen in hand again, a stack of essays in front of her. Life had settled into something good, something real. I hadn't seen or heard from Tessa. Brianna, or Maya since that day. No emails. No messages. Not even a LinkedIn ping. Gone. Really gone this time. And for the first time in a long time I felt it. Peace. Not the loud, sweeping kind. The quiet kind. Like a storm finally passing, leaving behind nothing but stillness. The chili bubbled on the stove. I tasted it, needed salt, maybe a little kick. Behind me, Leah looked up from her grating. "Smells good," she said, smiling that half-smile that always worked on me. "Better be," I said, grinning. She laughed, soft and easy. The front door burst open. Our son barreled in, waving a muddy stick. Our daughter followed, shouting something about a giant bug she'd discovered. The floor was instantly wet, loud, messy. "Out," I said, pointing to the sink. "Wash up." They groaned, but listened, water splashing everywhere like usual. It was chaos. It was loud. It was ours. Tessa's face. That look she gave me, those tears she tried to sell, faded a little more each day, replaced by this noise, this joy, this steady, beautiful life I'd built with my own 2 hands. Work was good, too. I bounced between the diners, 3 of them now, checking inventory, flipping burgers, cracking jokes with the waitresses. The regulars knew me by name. Old Frank with his morning paper and black coffee. The trucker who always tipped big. The woman who needed a mountain of napkins just to eat toast. "Hey Eli," they'd say, and I'd nod right back. One morning, Dolores popped into the first diner. Her tattoos had faded, but the fire in her stare hadn't. "You didn't screw it up," she said, glancing around with approval. Then she clapped my shoulder and left without another word. High praise, coming from her. I chuckled as I poured coffee at the next table, thinking how far I'd come. From that guy abandoned at a dusty gas station to this. I didn't check on Tessa anymore. No social media stalking. No late-night scrolls. I'd done that once, years ago, and seen enough, her pretending to be some kind of tragic figure. I didn't need to see more. I knew who I was, and I knew who she wasn't. She was still out there, somewhere, living whatever life she'd cobbled together after her business folded and her marriage fell apart. Maybe Brianna and Maya were still hanging around too. Still bitter, still pointing fingers at each other, or maybe at her. Honestly, I didn't care. They'd come crawling once, and I'd closed the door. That $85.50 check. That was the last thing I'd ever give them. Just enough to match the price of being left behind. Just enough to walk away, like they once expected me to. And I didn't feel bad about it. Not guilty. Not vindictive. I just felt free. That weekend, Leah and I took the kids to the park. Crisp air, crunchy leaves. One of those fall days that makes everything feel more alive. Our son sprinted ahead, kicking a half-deflated soccer ball like he was playing in the World Cup. Our daughter clung to my hand, pointing at squirrels like they were exotic animals. Leah walked beside me, our arms brushing, her jacket rustling against mine. We didn't talk much, didn't need to. We just walked, watched, breathed. For a second, Tessa crossed my mind. Her voice, her face when she saw that check. Then it slipped away, like steam in the cold air. She couldn't touch this. Couldn't even come close. Everything I had now, this family, this moment, I'd built it without her, in spite of her. And it was better than anything she ever pretended to offer. "You're quiet," Leah said, nudging me gently. "Just happy," I said, and meant it. She gave my hand a squeeze. That was all. She understood. Back home, we reheated the chili. Too spicy. The kids whined, but kept eating anyway, eyes watering between spoonfuls. I sat there at the table, watching them bicker over the last dinner roll, while Leah rolled her eyes and tried not to laugh. This was it. Not some epic revenge. Not a mic drop moment. Just this. A messy kitchen, loud kids, a wife who knew me better than anyone ever had. This was the win. Tessa had wanted me to break, to crawl back. Maybe not consciously, but in the way she operated, her guilt, her control, her games. But I hadn't. I'd walked away from that gas station. Walked toward something better. Toward Glenn and his gruff kindness at the shelter. toward Dolores and her no-nonsense diner, toward Leah and the sound of her laugh across a second-hand couch, toward two kids who wore me out and filled me up at the same time. Every step of the way mine, every scar, every dollar, every soft night like this earned. They lost. Not because I beat them, but because I stopped playing. Life kept rolling forward. Mornings of school drop-offs and diner rushes. Evenings of helping with math homework and arguing over whose turn it was to mow the lawn. Nights curled up next to Leah, both of us too tired to finish the movie we started. It was simple, sometimes chaotic, and absolutely perfect. I didn't look back. Didn't have to. Tessa had faded into something like a shadow, passing, weightless. Once in a while, I'd catch a flicker of her in my mind, a crooked smirk, a teary stare. But it never stuck. I'd turn up the radio, flip a burger, hug my daughter tighter, and she'd be gone again. The diners were doing well. The kids kept growing, kept surprising me. Leah and I had our rhythms now, arguing over the thermostat, debating how much garlic was too much, stealing moments where we could. I woke up early most days. Made coffee. Stood by the kitchen window, hands wrapped around a mug, staring out at the yard. And I felt it. That peace. Quiet. Deep. Unshakable. One night, after we got the kids to bed and the house went still, I stepped out onto the porch. Beer in hand, air crisp on my skin. The sky was clear, stars punching through the dark like pinholes in a curtain. Leah joined me a few minutes later, wrapped in a blanket. She didn't say anything at first, just sat beside me, close enough that I could feel the warmth from her shoulder. "What's on your mind?" she asked, voice soft. I took a sip, watching my breath drift in the air. "Nothing," I said. Then I smiled. "Everything." She leaned her head on my shoulder. And we sat there. No noise. No ghosts. Just the two of us breathing the same cold night air. Tessa was gone. Really gone. And I was here. Whole. Turns out the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's peace. It's the life you build in spite of the pain. It's standing on your porch beside someone who never tried to break you and knowing you made it. I didn't need to prove anything. I'd already won.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel.